Dr. Vexandra had seen many strange things in her 40 years as the galaxy's top alien expert. She had studied creatures that lived in liquid metal, beings made of pure light, and monsters with 17 brains. But nothing had prepared her for the message that appeared on her screen that morning. The hologram flickered to life, showing Dr. Melcaran from Research Station Omega-7. His usually calm blue face looked worried and confused. Behind him she could hear strange sounds, laughter, music, and what sounded like someone singing. "Dr. Vexandra, we have a serious problem," he began, his voice shaking slightly. "We discovered a new species 3 days ago. They call themselves humans. Small creatures only about 2 meters tall, with strange pink skin and hair on their heads. We thought they would be easy to study." Vexandra leaned forward. "What seems to be the issue, Dr. Melcaran?" "Well, we put them in our standard containment facility. You know, the one that has held everything from acid-breathing Zorblaks to telepathic gas clouds. These humans looked at it for about 10 minutes, then one of them, he said his name was Tom, started talking to our guards." "Talking? What did he say?" Dr. Melcaran looked embarrassed. "He asked them why they were keeping innocent people locked up. He said it made him sad to see such nice guards doing something that must make them feel bad inside. Then a female named Emma started crying and said she just wanted to go home to see her children." Vexandra blinked her large eyes. "And? The guards let them out. Just like that. When I asked why, Guard Captain Zortek said the humans seemed really sad and it felt wrong to keep them locked up. Then Tom patted him on the shoulder and said he was a good person for listening to his heart." The sounds in the background grew louder. Someone was definitely singing and others were clapping along. "Dr. Melcaran, what is that noise?" "That's another problem. The humans said our food was terrible, which it is, I suppose. It's just nutrition paste. But then Emma asked if she could use our kitchen. Now she's teaching our staff something called cooking. Everyone keeps saying the food tastes amazing. I tried it myself and, well, it really does." Vexandra could smell something wonderful drifting from behind Dr. Melcaran. Her stomach made a strange sound. "There's more," he continued. "A human named Jack asked why everyone looked so tired. When we explained that we work 16-hour shifts with no breaks, he looked shocked. He said that was terrible for our health and happiness. Now he's convinced the station manager to give everyone something called coffee breaks." "Coffee breaks. It's a hot drink that makes you feel more awake and you sit together and talk for a few minutes. I don't understand why, but everyone seems much happier. Work is getting done faster too, even though we're taking breaks." Vexandra made notes on her computer. This was very strange behavior for a newly discovered species. "Dr. Melcaran, have you tried to run any tests on these humans? That's the strangest part of all. Every time we try to study them, they start studying us instead." A human named Lucy asked Dr. Tixmarin about his family. Now he talks about his feelings every day and says he feels much better. Another human, Mike, saw that Engineer Polvek was working alone and looked lonely. Mike taught him some kind of card game. Now there are game nights every evening and different species are actually becoming friends. The singing in the background stopped and Vexandra heard a human voice say, "Dr. Mel, your friends on the video look nice. Want to introduce us?" Dr. Melcaran looked nervous. "The humans want to meet you. They're very friendly." A face appeared next to Dr. Melcaran on the screen. It was one of the strangest faces Vexandra had ever seen, small eyes, tiny nose, and a mouth that curved upward in what she learned was called a smile. "Hi there. I'm Emma. Mel's told us so much about you. We're really excited to learn about all the different people in the galaxy. Would you like to come visit? I'm making something called pizza tonight, and everyone says it's really good." Vexandra stared at the screen. The humans seemed genuinely happy to meet her, even though they had never seen each other before. Yes, I think I should come study your species more closely." "Oh, that's wonderful. Fair warning though, we'll probably end up studying you right back. We're really curious about everything. Tom has about 1,000,000 questions about space travel, and Jack wants to know how all the different species get along. Oh, and Lucy is really excited to learn about your culture and traditions." After the call ended, Vexandra sat in her chair thinking. She had studied thousands of species, but none had ever invited her to dinner. None had ever seemed excited to learn about her. She made a few calls and assembled the best team she could find. Admiral Korthak, the military expert who had dealt with hostile first contacts. Dr. Yilvar, who understood how alien minds worked. Professor Quindal, who specialized in impossible things. Commander Zaxwin, who knew all about keeping new species contained. But as she prepared to leave for Research Station Omega-7, she had a strange feeling that her team might not be studying the humans as much as the humans would be studying them. And somehow that thought didn't worry her as much as it should have. Something told her that meeting these humans was going to change everything. The transport ship carrying Dr. Vexandra's expert team approached Research Station Omega-7 with military precision. Admiral Korthak reviewed the standard first contact procedures one final time while his security team checked their containment equipment. Dr. Yilvar prepared her psychological evaluation tools, and Professor Quindal organized his scientific instruments. Commander Zaxwin went over the station's security protocols with his usual attention to detail. Remember, Admiral Korthak told his team as they prepared to dock, these creatures may appear harmless, but they have already shown they can manipulate station personnel. Stay alert and follow proper procedures. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and the team stepped into the station's main corridor. What they saw made them all stop in confusion. A human male stood behind a small table covered with steaming cups. He had brown hair and friendly eyes, and he smiled when he saw them. Welcome to Research Station Omega-7. I'm Jack. Would anyone like some coffee? It's fresh, and I added something called cinnamon that Dr. Melkaran loves. Behind Jack, they could see a group of researchers from different species sitting together at tables, talking and laughing while holding similar cups. A large Rigelian was showing pictures to a small Centaurian, both of them smiling. Admiral Korthak stepped forward, trying to maintain his authority. We are here on official Confederation business to study your species. You will need to return to your containment areas immediately. Jack looked confused. Containment areas? Oh, you mean those rooms with the force fields? We're not using those anymore. They were really uncomfortable, and Emma said they reminded her of prison cells. Dr. Melkaran found us much nicer quarters near the observation deck. The view of the stars is amazing. You cannot simply decide where you live on this station, Commander Zaxwin said firmly. Oh, we didn't decide by ourselves, a female voice said. A human woman with red hair approached them, carrying a tray of something that smelled wonderful. I'm Lucy. We talked to everyone about it. The researchers agreed that those containment rooms were pretty awful. Would you like to try some cookies? I made them with ingredients from the hydroponics bay. Dr. Yilvar reached for one of the small round objects before she could stop herself. It was warm and sweet and unlike anything she had ever tasted. This is very good, she admitted. Thank you. Baking is one of my hobbies. I used to own a bakery back on Earth. Dr. Tixmarin has been helping me figure out which ingredients work for different species. Did you know that crystalline beings can actually taste sweetness through their mineral matrix? It's fascinating. Professor Quindal pulled out his data recorder. I need to document these interactions. Your species appears to be integrating with station personnel in unexpected ways. A young human male with black hair overheard him. Oh, are you studying us? That's so cool. I'm Mike. I've been learning about all the different species here. Did you know that void dwellers actually have a really complex emotional system? They just express it differently than we do. Zorwin taught me some of their communication patterns. Zorwin? Admiral Korthak looked confused. You mean Guard Captain Zortek? Yeah, but he likes Zorwin better. It's more friendly. He's been teaching me about military strategy, and I've been showing him this card game called poker. You should join us tonight. We're having a tournament, and the winner gets to pick tomorrow's dinner menu. Admiral Korthak had fought in 40 major battles and negotiated peace treaties with hostile civilizations, but he had never encountered anything like this. I do not play games, he said stiffly. That's okay, Mike said cheerfully. Maybe you'd like to watch? Emma is making something called pizza for everyone. She says it's good for bringing people together. Before the Admiral could respond, a small human child ran up to them. She had blonde hair tied in 2 sections and carried a stuffed animal that looked like no creature any of them had seen before. Are you the new visitors? She asked, looking up at Dr. Yilvar with bright blue eyes. I'm Katie. I'm 7 years old. What kind of alien are you? You're really pretty. Dr. Yilvar, who had spent decades studying the psychology of various species, found herself completely off balance. I am a Zenthari. We are from the Spiral Nebula region. That sounds really far away. Do you miss your home? I miss my home sometimes, but everyone here is so nice that it doesn't feel too bad. Do you want to see my drawings? I've been drawing pictures of all the different species here. Katie pulled out a small book filled with colorful pictures. They were simple, like all child art, but somehow they captured something special about each species she had drawn. The Rigelian looked wise and kind, the Centaurian appeared curious and energetic, and the Void Dweller somehow seemed gentle despite having no visible face. This is my favorite, Katie said, showing them a picture of what appeared to be a large gathering of different creatures around a table. It's everyone eating dinner together. Tom says that sharing food is how humans make friends. Commander Zaxwin tried to regain control of the situation. These integration activities are not authorized. The humans need to be properly contained and studied. But why? Asked a human woman who had just walked up. She had brown hair and carried what appeared to be a musical instrument. Everyone seems really happy. The researchers told us they've never enjoyed their work this much. And we're learning so much about the galaxy. I am Sarah, she continued. I've been talking with Dr. Velnock about Zenthari music. Did you know that your people have songs that last for 3 days? I'm trying to adapt one for human voices. Would you like to hear it? Dr. Yilvar found herself nodding before she realized what she was doing. Admiral Korthak looked around at his team. Professor Quindao was examining Katie's drawings with scientific interest. Dr. Yilvar was listening to Sarah hum a complex melody. Commander Zaxwin was reluctantly accepting a cup of coffee from Jack. Their carefully planned first contact procedure had completely fallen apart in less than 10 minutes, and somehow, none of them felt like that was a bad thing. 3 weeks after their arrival, Dr. Vexandra's expert team had abandoned all pretense of following standard research procedures. Every morning, Professor Quindao found himself joining what the humans called a coffee circle, where different species shared stories about their home worlds. Dr. Yilvar had started something she never thought possible. She was keeping a personal diary about her own feelings, inspired by the humans' endless questions about inner experiences. The breaking point came on a Tuesday morning when 7-year-old Katie approached Dr. Yilvar with a box of colorful building blocks and some finger paints. Dr. Yil, can you help me understand something? Katie asked, her small face serious with concentration. My dad Tom was trying to explain quantum mechanics to me, but I don't get all those big words. Can you show me with these blocks? Dr. Yilvar had written 3 textbooks on quantum theory. She had taught graduate courses to the brightest minds in the galaxy. She looked down at the child's simple toys and felt completely lost. Katie, quantum mechanics is very complicated. These blocks cannot possibly. But everything is made of tiny pieces, right? Katie interrupted, picking up a red block. And these tiny pieces can be in different places at the same time until someone looks at them? Well, yes, that is a basic description of quantum superposition, but... Katie started building with the blocks, her small hands moving quickly. So it's like this block is dancing between here and here. She moved a blue block back and forth, but when I look at it really hard, it has to pick just one place to be. She placed the block firmly on the table. Dr. Yilvar watched, fascinated despite herself. And then, Katie continued, opening her paints, all the dancing blocks are connected like invisible strings. She began painting lines between the blocks with her fingers. So when one block stops dancing here, she pointed to the blue block, its friend block over there knows immediately and stops dancing too. The child had just described quantum entanglement using children's toys and finger paint. Dr. Yilvar stared at the colorful mess Katie had created, and suddenly the complex equation she had struggled with for years made perfect sense. Katie, she whispered, you just solved a problem that our physics team has been working on for months. Really? Katie beamed. Can I show them? Maybe they'd like to play with blocks too. An hour later, Dr. Yilvar found herself in the station's main physics lab, watching Katie explain her block and paint model to a team of the galaxy's most brilliant scientists. Dr. Kex Morin, who had 3 advanced degrees in theoretical physics, was sitting cross-legged on the floor, moving blocks around and muttering calculations under his breath. The child is right, he announced, looking up with wonder in his large eyes. If we apply her spatial relationship model to our warp drive equations. He paused, quickly working through the math in his head. We could increase efficiency by 40%. Meanwhile, in the station's psychological research wing, Dr. Yilvar's colleague Dr. Pixtaran was having his own crisis of understanding. A human woman named Rachel had noticed that he looked stressed and had offered to teach him something called meditation. Just sit comfortably and breathe slowly, Rachel said in her gentle voice. When thoughts come into your mind, don't fight them. Just notice them and let them float away like clouds. Dr. Pixtaran, who had studied the minds of hundreds of species, found this advice impossibly simple. But how does observing thoughts without judgment help with psychological stress? Where are the complex therapeutic interventions? Sometimes the simple things work best, Rachel replied. Here, try this. Close your eyes and tell me about a happy memory. Despite his scientific skepticism, Dr. Pixtaran found himself talking about his childhood on Kepler Prime, playing in the Crystal Gardens with his siblings. As he spoke, he felt a calmness he had not experienced in years. You see, Rachel said softly. Your mind already knows how to heal. Sometimes it just needs permission to do it. By the end of the week, Dr. Pixtaran had introduced meditation sessions for the entire research staff. Productivity increased, conflicts decreased, and everyone reported feeling more satisfied with their work. Admiral Korthak faced his own humbling experience when he attempted to establish proper military discipline among the mixed species security team. The humans had introduced something called team-building exercises that involved games and shared activities rather than traditional drills. This is highly irregular, the Admiral complained to a human named Paul, who had somehow become the unofficial coordinator of station security. Military effectiveness requires strict hierarchy and discipline, not these recreational activities. I understand your concern, Paul replied respectfully. But have you noticed that response times have improved since we started doing these activities together? When people actually like and trust each other, they work better as a team. The Admiral was forced to admit that Paul was right. The security team's coordination had improved dramatically. Species that had never worked well together were now functioning as a smooth unit. When he asked how this was possible, Paul simply said, when you share pizza with someone and learn about their family, it's hard to see them as just another co-worker. You start seeing them as a friend you want to protect. Commander Zaxwin's carefully organized station protocols had been completely transformed by human suggestions. A woman named Jennifer had proposed something called a suggestion box, where anyone could offer ideas for improvements. Within days, they had received hundreds of suggestions that streamlined everything from meal scheduling to equipment maintenance. The humans seem to assume that everyone has good ideas and wants to help, Commander Zaxwin reported to his supervisors. This assumption appears to be correct. Station efficiency has increased by 60%. The most disturbing development for the research team was their growing realization that the humans were completely unaware of how remarkable they were. When Dr. Vexandra asked Tom how he had taught Katie quantum mechanics, he looked confused. I didn't teach her anything special, he said. I just answered her questions honestly and let her figure things out her own way. Kids are naturally curious about how things work. When she asked Rachel about her therapeutic techniques, Rachel laughed. I'm not a therapist. I just listen to people and try to help them feel better. Doesn't everyone do that? The galaxy's greatest minds were being consistently amazed by beings who considered their extraordinary abilities completely ordinary. And somehow that made the humans even more mysterious. Professor Quindal had spent 6 months analyzing every piece of data about human evolution, history, and behavior. His research lab was filled with holographic displays showing Earth's timeline, genetic charts, and behavioral patterns. The more he studied, the more confused he became. This makes no sense, he muttered to himself, staring at a projection of early human migration patterns. They left Africa with nothing but stone tools and animal skins. No advanced technology, no natural armor, no special abilities. They were slower than most predators, weaker than most competitors, and had no claws, fangs, or poison. Dr. Vexandra entered the lab carrying 2 cups of the coffee that had become essential to station operations. What did you discover, Professor? That's just it, I discovered that humans shouldn't exist at all. Professor Quindal gestured at the displays around him. Look at this. Ice age after ice age, supervolcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, diseases that killed 90% of other species. Every time something terrible happened, humans should have died out. But they didn't, Dr. Vexandra observed. No, they didn't. And do you know how they survived? They complained about the cold, then figured out how to make fire bigger. They grumbled about having no food, then learned to throw sticks at mammoths. They got tired of walking, so they convinced wolves to help them hunt. Their entire survival strategy appears to be, this situation is terrible, let's try something crazy to fix it. Professor Quindal pulled up another display showing human technological development. Look at this progression. They went from banging rocks together to splitting atoms in just 10,000 years. But the really strange part is how they did it. Every major breakthrough came from someone who was either bored, curious, or annoyed by a problem. Annoyed? Yes. Alexander Fleming discovered antibiotics because some mold contaminated his experiments and he was curious about why bacteria died around it. The Wright brothers built flying machines because they were frustrated that humans couldn't fly. Marie Curie studied radioactivity because glowing rocks seemed interesting. They turn irritation into innovation. Dr. Vexandra sipped her coffee thoughtfully. What about their social behavior? Even stranger. They form emotional bonds with creatures that should be their prey or predators. They keep small carnivores called cats that serve no practical purpose except to provide what humans call companionship. They rescue injured animals, care for sick members of other species, and cry when fictional characters die in stories. Their conversation was interrupted by sounds of laughter and music from the station's main recreation area. Through the lab's transparent walls, they could see what had become a daily occurrence: species from across the galaxy participating in human-organized activities. A massive Rigelian was carefully learning to play something called hopscotch with Katie and two young Centaurian researchers. The game made no logical sense. Throwing an object and hopping on one foot served no survival purpose. Yet everyone seemed to be having wonderful time. That's another thing, Professor Quindale continued. Humans appear to believe that fun is a basic requirement for mental health. They've convinced our entire research staff that regular recreation improves work performance. And somehow they're right. Dr. Yilvar approached their table, looking both excited and frustrated. Professor, I need to show you something that might break your brain even more. She activated her personal display, showing psychological profiles of the human group. I've been conducting personality assessments for months. Look at these results. The data showed a bewildering variety of human psychological types. Some were naturally cautious, others were risk-takers. Some preferred logic, others relied on intuition. Some were naturally leaders, others were followers. The fascinating part, Dr. Yilvar explained, is that their diversity appears to be intentional. Evolution didn't create one optimal human personality type. It created dozens of different types that work together. When I asked Tom about this, he said, well, you need different kinds of people for different problems, right? As if that's obvious, Professor Quindale groaned. Their discussion was interrupted when the station's communication system activated. Attention all personnel, please report to Recreation Area 7 for tonight's talent show. Emma has made popcorn, and Steve promises his comedy routine will be better than last week. Dr. Vexandra looked at her colleagues. Should we attend? For research purposes, of course. An hour later, the galaxy's most brilliant minds found themselves sitting in a room filled with beings from 17 different species, watching a human named Steve stand in front of everyone telling jokes. So a Zenthri, a Rigelian, and a human walk into a space bar, Steve began. The bartender looks at them and says, what is this, some kind of joke? The audience erupted in laughter. Dr. Yilvar found herself giggling despite not fully understanding why the joke was funny. But the evening's most remarkable moment came during intermission, when two humans named Grace and Robert were chatting with some hegemony and free worlds representatives who happened to be visiting the station. I don't understand why your people have been fighting for so long, Grace said innocently. You both seem really nice. The territorial dispute has been going on for 2 centuries, explained Ambassador Crix of the hegemony. The neutral zone contains resources that both our peoples need. Why don't you just share it? Robert suggested. Like, take turns or something. Or better yet, work together to get more resources for everyone. The ambassadors stared at him. Share? Yeah, like when we were kids and had to share toys. It's more fun when everyone gets to play. Within an hour, Grace and Robert had accidentally facilitated the preliminary negotiations for the first peace treaty between the hegemony and free worlds in 200 years. They did this by suggesting both sides talk it out over pizza, and asking simple questions like, what do your people really need? And how can we make sure everyone is happy? Professor Quindale watched in amazement as two humans with no diplomatic training, no knowledge of interstellar law, and no understanding of the complex political situation somehow achieved what professional negotiators had failed to accomplish for decades. How? He whispered to Dr. Vexandra. She shook her head in wonder. I think they just assume that most problems have simple solutions and that people are basically good. And somehow when they assume that, it becomes true. The talent show continued with a void dweller performing an interpretive dance and a crystalline entity singing in harmonics that made everyone feel peaceful. But Professor Quindale barely noticed. He was staring at his data displays, realizing that 6 months of research had led him to only one conclusion. Humans were impossible, but they worked anyway. 1 year after the first human contact, Research Station Omega-7 had become the most popular destination in the galaxy. Ships arrived daily bringing visitors who wanted to experience what everyone was calling the human effect. The original research mission had been quietly abandoned when it became clear that studying humans was less important than learning from them. Dr. Vexandra stood in what used to be the main laboratory, now converted into a combination library, coffee shop, and discussion center. Humans called it a community space, and somehow every species that visited understood exactly what that meant. She watched Tom, the first human they had tried to contain, leading a group of young researchers from 12 different species in what he called a think tank session. "The question isn't whether we can build faster ships," Tom was saying, drawing diagrams on a transparent board. "The question is why we want to go faster in the first place. Are we trying to save time, explore more places, or just because faster seems better?" A young Centaurian raised her hand. "But isn't faster always better for space travel?" Tom smiled. "That's exactly the kind of assumption we should question. What if instead of going faster we made the journey itself more enjoyable? What if travel time became learning time or thinking time or friendship time?" Dr. Vexandra shook her head in amazement. Tom had no formal education in engineering or philosophy, yet his simple questions had led to 3 major breakthroughs in ship design and 2 new theories about the nature of progress itself. Across the station, Emma's restaurant had become an unofficial embassy. The pizza diplomacy that had started as a joke was now official Confederation policy. The simple act of sharing food while talking had resolved more conflicts in 1 year than formal negotiations had achieved in decades. "Order up," Emma called out, carrying a tray of something she called fusion cuisine, dishes that combined ingredients and techniques from different worlds. A Regelian diplomat and a hegemony trade representative sat at the same table, arguing good-naturedly about whether the spicy noodles were better with crystal seasoning or void pepper. "The secret," Emma had once told Dr. Vexandra, "is that people can't stay angry at each other when they're sharing something delicious. Food is a universal language." Dr. Yilvar found herself in the station's new wellness center, where Rachel had established something unprecedented: therapy sessions for mixed species. Different beings sat in circles, talking about their feelings, fears, and dreams while Rachel asked simple questions and listened with genuine care. "I never thought other species would understand my anxiety about deep space," a crystalline entity was saying, their mineral structure glowing soft blue with emotion. "But hearing that humans also fear the unknown makes me feel less alone." "Fear is how we stay safe," Rachel replied gently. "But courage is how we grow. You don't have to choose between being careful and being brave." Dr. Yilvar had tried to analyze Rachel's therapeutic techniques and failed completely. Rachel used no formal methods, followed no established protocols, and had never studied psychology. She simply cared about people and believed that everyone deserved to feel better. Somehow, this approach worked better than anything in the medical literature. In the station's new recreation complex, Paul's soccer league had evolved into something extraordinary. Species that had never interacted now played together in teams that changed weekly. The rules had been adapted 17 times to accommodate different physical capabilities, but the spirit of the game remained the same: everyone having fun together. "The goal isn't to win," Paul explained to a group of new arrivals. "The goal is to make sure everyone enjoys playing. Winning is just something that happens sometimes." Admiral Korthak, who now served as the station's security coordinator, watched a game where floating ethereals worked with ground-based Centaurians against a mixed team of Rigelians and humans. The teamwork was flawless, not because of military discipline, but because everyone genuinely wanted their teammates to succeed. "This makes no tactical sense," the Admiral muttered to himself, then smiled. He had said the same thing every day for months, and every day he was proven wrong. The most remarkable change was in the station's children's area, where Katie had become an unofficial ambassador between young beings of different species. She had taught quantum mechanics to physics students, conflict resolution to diplomats, and basic kindness to everyone she met. "Adults make everything too complicated," she told Dr. Vexandra one afternoon while they watched a group of children from 6 different species building something elaborate with blocks and spare parts. "Kids just want to play together and build cool stuff." The cool stuff turned out to be a working model of a new type of space station that could house multiple species comfortably. The design had come from combining the preferences and needs that each child had described for their ideal home. Professional architects were still studying the plans. As the year anniversary approached, Dr. Vexandra prepared her final report to the Galactic Confederation. She had filled thousands of pages with observations, interviews, and analysis. But when she sat down to write her conclusion, she deleted everything and started over. Her final report was a single page. Subject: Human Classification and Integration Status. After 12 months of intensive study, I must report that the question, "What is a human?" remains unanswered. However, I have discovered that this may be the wrong question entirely. Humans are not remarkable because of any single trait or ability. They are remarkable because they assume the best about others, find joy in simple things, and believe that problems exist to be solved rather than endured. They treat kindness as normal, curiosity as necessary, and hope as reasonable. Most importantly, they seem to believe that the universe is inherently interesting and that other beings are inherently worth knowing. This belief appears to be contagious. Recommendation: stop trying to understand humans. Start learning to see the galaxy through their eyes. Classification: impossible but essential. Threat level: they will make everything better whether you want them to or not. Personal note: I have requested permanent assignment to this station. The coffee is excellent, and Emma promised to teach me how to make something called chocolate chip cookies. Dr. Vexandra submitted the report and walked to the community area, where Tom was organizing something called a story circle, where beings from different worlds shared tales from their home planets. She had a few stories of her own to tell. The question of what humans were remained unanswered, but as she listened to laughter echoing through the station, Dr. Vexandra realized that some mysteries were more valuable when left unsolved. The humans had taught them all that sometimes the best response to the impossible was simply to embrace it and see what wonderful things might happen next. And throughout the galaxy, that's exactly what everyone was beginning to do.